Hey everyone, TruthSurge here again with another episode of Jesus, Hebrew Human or Mythical Messiah. Right off the bat, just a quick note, this will be the last video I do for a while on this topic. I want to get on to a few other things, and I just wanted to let you know. After I come back to it though, I want to start looking at the exceptions to the theory. The enigmatic phrases that don't seem to fit with the Jesus myth theory. At face value, they do seem to contradict the theory. The good confession before Pilate, Paul calling Jesus a man, seed of David, born of woman, born under law, and all of these verses I would like to look at. But for now, we'll leave you with this this piece of evidence. This video, we're going to look at something pretty interesting, as I hope they've all been. The question about Jesus' name. What's in a name? I mean, we could call it anything and it would still be the thing. I mean, we could call a skunk a rose, but it would still stink. So, the interesting thing, though, is that sometimes names do have meanings. And in fact, names had meanings in the Middle East during the time the Bible was written. Names, what would happen, common Hebrew words would get co-joined and become a name. And the reverse also happened. A proper name became used so frequently that it became synonymous with the thing itself, and it became, it became a generic word. And then, of course, we have the main character of our series, Jesus. What about his name? Here's an interesting question for you. Was Jesus always called Jesus? And furthermore, was there ever a time when he wasn't called anything at all? When he was simply known as the Son of God, or perhaps something different? So, anyway, this video is going to examine the idea of how names change from one thing to another, and at the end we'll look at a little bit at how Jesus' name evolved throughout the course of Christianity's lifetime, and then we'll end the video by looking at something very peculiar in the book of Philippians, that if it's true, if it hasn't been altered, if it hasn't been interpolated, if it pans out, it's going to have some far-reaching implications for the gospel story. So anyway, let's go ahead and see what we can find out about Jesus, the name above all names.
Some of the most famous names to be found in the Bible were originally not names at all. They were simply Hebrew words which later evolved into names. Let's look at a couple of examples. Who doesn't know the name of the first human being that was created by God? But was Adam always known as Adam? Let's look at the first occurrence of the proper name Adam and see what the underlying Hebrew word is. Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. The actual Hebrew word that appears in the physical manuscripts for the English name Adam, as well as the other verses that name Adam, is Adam. Well, that was rather anticlimactic, wasn't it? But let's dig a little deeper. What does Strong's Hebrew lexicon say? Adam, man, or mankind. And we see a few other definitions. Man, human being, man or mankind. But look at the third entry. Adam, a proper noun. There was no capitalization in Hebrew, however, and no way to signal to the reader that the text was a name or simply a word, so why does Strong's lexicon list Adam with a capital A as one of the meanings? Let's see how the Hebrew word Adam is translated in the previous verse, verse 18. Surely, in this part of Genesis, they should all be translated as Adam with a capital A, since we're talking about the same man. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him." Here, the English word man was used instead of the name Adam, and the underlying Hebrew word for man in this verse is Adam. Wait a minute. Within the span of 2 verses, we see the exact same Hebrew word rendered 2 radically different ways. Why didn't the translators translate it as Adam here instead of man? It reads perfectly well either way. We have the same word used to describe the same human being, but yet, until chapter 2, verse 19, every instance of Adam was translated as man. Then suddenly, at verse 19, the Hebrew word itself gets capitalized and brought over as a proper noun. That's very odd, since the more than 2,000 verses after the Genesis account get translated as man and not Adam. Here is a verse that actually has both renderings, and yet the Hebrew word is the same in both cases, Adam. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Notice the problem. Adam, the name, and the word man, or mankind, both work perfectly well in most of these verses, but not all. Man or mankind works in all of the verses, but Adam does not, as we can see in this next verse. And God created man in his image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Mankind or man works here, but Adam, a single man, does not, since we are talking about the creation of both man and woman. Again, notice the abrupt change from man to Adam with a capital A from verse 18 to 19 in chapter 2. We aren't even told that God named the man Adam. It just pops up unannounced. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him." Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. Furthermore, Eve is called simply woman throughout most of chapter 3, long after Adam mysteriously gains his name in chapter 2. Even as early as the 2nd century BCE, Adam had gained his name via translation from Hebrew to Greek in the Septuagint. But whereas the King James Version uses man in verse 16, the Septuagint uses Adam. Are these translators just guessing? Is it possible that only later, when it was undesirable to have a placeholder character as the first human, the word Adam became translated as Adam with a capital A, and for this reason Strong's Concordance had to make a new explanation, a new definition, that accommodated the desire to not have our first human go unnamed and anonymous? The likely answer is that the original story, as written in Genesis, was about an anonymous man and woman, a placeholder, much like a parable. A certain man did such and such. The man and woman's names are unimportant to the moral of the parable, but later became important to both Jews and Christians who began to see the story as literal history and not a simple allegory or origin myth. The Hebrew word Adam simply means man, and only after the desires of the religious became so great that they took it upon themselves to alter the meaning did it become Adam, a proper noun. This same phenomenon happened with a very famous biblical character that is known worldwide today, Satan.